She mocked my anxiety. I shut down her words. Now we're rebuilding a bond forged in pain and honest forgiveness. Growing up, I felt like a ghost in my own home. My sister, 2 years older, cast a long shadow over me. She mocked how I looked, teased me harshly for my messy hair and timid voice, and laughed loudly whenever my hands trembled in public. Every day she thrived on belittling me. She never asked about my day, never listened when I tried to share a small victory or a worry. If I dared to speak, she'd roll her eyes, interrupt, or change the topic to herself. Her friends would laugh, and I would shrink inside. Our relationship wasn't a relationship, it was me, always available as her audience, her sounding board, her shadow. She poured out stories, her crushes, her drama, her plans, while I sat silent, waiting for a moment when I might matter. That moment never came. At 14, I had panic attacks in crowded hallways. I told her once, hoping for empathy. She laughed, "Drama much?" and walked away. That was the last time I tried. After high school, I snapped, or maybe I finally woke up. I realized I had no energy left to be her punching bag. So I changed. My answers became one-word responses. I ignored her long monologues. I stopped asking about her life. She called it toxic. Me? I called it survival. My heart still ached for sisterly affection, but my spirit said, I deserve better than this. Now, I'm 20 and she's 22. We still argue, though mostly one-sided. She's angry that I don't care. I'm relieved that I don't have to. She said I'm stuck in the past. Maybe I am, but I'm not going back. This isn't about forgetting. It's about refusing to be trampled again. A few weeks ago, I decided to speak. I sat her down and said, "You hurt me for years. You ignored me. You mocked my anxiety. And I don't have the energy anymore. I loved you, I always wanted to feel like your sister mattered. But right now I feel like I don't matter to you." My voice shook, but her face stayed the same, puzzled, annoyed, slightly offended. She said I was being dramatic, that I was being toxic, and that maybe the problem was me, because I refused to move on. I told her how suppressed grief can poison even the best memories. That I want a healthy relationship, but not at the cost of my self-respect. I gave her space after. I sat by my phone, expecting some reply. Hours passed. Days. Part of me was terrified. Does she even care? Will she ever understand? I want her to say, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I want you in my life, but on fair terms." And then I want her to ask about me. "Hey, how was your presentation? Are you okay today? Do you want to hang out?" I want to feel seen, not just by chance or routine, but by intention. Here's how I'm handling it. I don't bombard her. I wait. I stay open if she reaches out. But I'm not waiting forever. I'll spend time with people who do care, instead of waiting for her to wake up. If she asks to reconnect, we'll set new boundaries, no insults, no dismissals, mutual interest in each other's lives. Then I accept it. I'll grieve the sister I hoped she'd become. I'll keep building a life free from daily sharp edges. And I'll hold on to hope that one day, our bond might be real, but until she's ready, I'm not going to suffer in silence. 2 weeks have passed since our conversation, and my phone remains silent. I log in each evening, half hoping, half dreading a message from her. She said she's thinking, but saying nothing. In the quiet of my room, I replay every memory, the ridicule she tossed at me like darts, the times I swallowed my tears and pretended to laugh along. I think of how I've shut myself off now, hardened, but still hurting. I wonder, is this distance saving me, or just delaying the healing? I decide to extend a small olive branch, not a demand, but a question, a doorway. I text, "Hey, I'm going hiking this weekend with a few friends. You're welcome to join, no pressure. I'd like it if you did." An hour later, her reply ping. Just one word, maybe. My chest tightens, it's better than silence, but it's still guarded. A few days to go, and the maybe looms. My phone vibe buzzing can make me jump. Did she commit? Did she forget? And why do I still care so much? The morning air is crisp as we gather at the trailhead. 3 friends jog ahead, I wait by the signboard, no sister. A minute later, she appears, awkward, hands in pockets. We walk together in silence until the sun hits the ridge. I stop, touch her shoulder gently. "Thanks for coming." She nods, voice soft, "Thanks for inviting me." We walk the ridge together. My friends chatter ahead, she and I share oxygen and openness. Finally, she says, I've been thinking about what you said. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. Her face looks relieved and ashamed at once. I nod, swallow. I feel something shift. We set our backpacks down on a rock. I tell her I still carry old words, some still cut deep. She listens. I can see her weighing each one. Then she says, I remember now, the hair, the panic attack. I was cruel, and I'm sorry. It doesn't excuse it, but I thought you were always fine. I swallow hurt and relief. Her apology is fragile. I answer, thank you. It means more than I thought it would. We walk the rest of the trail quietly. No declarations. No 7th grade closure. Just two sisters, walking side by side after a long fall. That evening, she sends a message. Let's talk more soon. Not just like this. My heart jumps. I respond. Sure. When you're ready, I'm here. Neither of us says I love you. But that night, I sleep lighter. Over the next few weeks, our dynamic shifts, but slowly. She asks about my work, and I ask about her life, without needing details. We agree to weekly dinners, but with rules: no put-downs, no yelling, no ignoring. At our first dinner, she compliments my new haircut. I say, thank you. She asks if I'm still anxious in meetings. I tell her, yes, sometimes, but I have strategies now. She listens, really listens. And asks follow-up questions. Small steps. But real ones. Some nights, I still feel the ache of old insults. I remind myself, reconciliation isn't forgetting, it's re-engaging without losing myself. I don't know where this goes. But I know this: I'm choosing connection, built on my terms. I've stopped being a ghost. I'm present. And for now, that's enough. The next morning, I wake to sunlight filtering through the curtains, hitting my phone where her message still sits, or doesn't. It's been 3 days since our hike, and already, I ache for it to matter. I dress carefully, aware of each movement, still cautious of old anxieties. I tell myself this will be different, unlike every other time I reached toward her and felt ghosted in return. Later that day, she texts, "Can we meet for coffee?" My chest tightens in anticipation. I type sure, hesitate, then add a time and place. When I hit send, I feel an odd mix of relief and fear. At the cafe, I choose a quiet corner booth. The bell above the door rings twice before she walks in. She looks different, quieter, more hesitant. She holds her hands together on the table, waiting. I order us a latte and green tea. There's something symbolic in that, strength and calm. We start with small talk, classes, work, a mutual friend's wedding. For the first time in years, it feels genuinely shared. She smiles gently when I describe my new job, calls me by my name instead of just you. It's a small detail, but it stirs something in me. Then we pause. I breathe, reminding myself I don't need to fix everything. I say, I've been thinking about what you said on the hike. She nods, eyes soft. I hurt you, she says, choosing direct phrasing. I'm really sorry. The words land heavily, but they land. My throat tightens and I hold back tears, nodding. I know, I say. Thank you. I wish I could say more, that I forgive easily, that this ends the hurt, but I'm not there. Still, I realize I'm not falling back, either. I'm breathing differently now. Owning the moment. She shifts forward, voice shaky. I've been trying to unlearn myself. I didn't realize how cruel I was. I want to try harder. My heart pounds, her admission is real, and raw. I sense her determination to mean it. We talk about boundaries, no teasing, no assuming, mutual listening. She asks, what can I do, practically? I take a breath and say, just listen. Ask me once in a while how I am. And if you slip, apologize. She meets my gaze and nods slowly. Later, I walk her to her car. The air is crisp and I feel lighter, like I've exhaled after holding breath too long. She says softly, I missed you. I stop, stunned. I missed you too. Maybe it's the healing power of truth between us. In the days that follow, she texts me news, a concert ticket, a funny meme, a question about a work presentation. I respond, not flooding, but engaging. I ask back, how was your meeting? Her replies come without sarcasm. Then one evening, she calls, can I drop by? I say yes. She comes over with a box, baby photos of us as kids and a card that says simply, for new memories. I laugh, touched. We sit together flipping through pictures, me shy in kindergarten, her with my hand in hers at a birthday party, and I see how deep the bond could have been. The guilt and regret pulse, but so does possibility. We talk late, unrehearsed, honest. No monologues, no judgment. Just two sisters, learning how to speak. When she leaves, I close the door and lean against it, tears finally slipping down. They aren't bitter. They're hopeful. Because this feels like a beginning, not an ending. Not perfect yet, but it finally feels real. Since our quiet coffee meeting, the atmosphere between us has shifted, delicate and cautious, like stepping onto a freshly built bridge. It starts with her message one calm evening, "Can we talk?" I respond with openness, mindful of advice to set realistic expectations and allow for small steps forward. We agree to meet at a neutral spot, no pressure, no scripts. When I arrive, she brings two chapbooks she once wrote during college, her handwriting, looped and careful. She places one in front of me. "You deserved a voice," she says softly. Her words mirror advice from family therapists: empathy, owning your part, and using I statements. These principles guide our exchange. She continues, "I never realized how much I pushed you aside, how little I listened. That was wrong." It's a sincere apology, and I can feel the shift. I tell her, "Thank you. I appreciate it. And I want to try, with boundaries." We spend the next hour talking, not about childhood drama, but about now, how I manage anxiety, what my days look like, how we might check in weekly. This echoes guidelines on rebuilding trust through small, consistent actions and clear, respectful boundaries. She listens, really listens, for the first time. We agree on simple steps: a Friday night text, "How was your day?" A monthly coffee date, and an agreement that if one of us slips, drifts into dismissiveness or teasing, we'll say time out and pause the conversation. This feels like laying down planks on that bridge, careful, necessary, breakable. Later, she admits she's been seeing a counselor. Something I'd read can help siblings unpack old dynamics and improve communication through therapy. She tells me the sessions are giving her tools: how to recognize when she's slipping into old patterns, how to practice active listening, how to avoid turning conversations back to herself. We finish our talk by sharing what we wish from this newly emerging relationship. For me, acknowledgement and care; for her, her sister's presence, even if changed. The meeting ends with a hug, hesitant but real. The following week, she sends a voice note. "Hey, I ordered your favorite tea. Coming over this weekend to drop it off?" I say yes. When she arrives, the tea is in a neat tin with a small card: "Thinking of you." I smile, deeply touched. At that moment, all the therapy techniques I'd read about come alive: small gestures, empathy, and gradual reconnection. We sit in my living room, sipping tea, with no need for talk. The simple presence feels like progress. The day our first joint therapy session arrives, I wake feeling both anxious and hopeful. After months of careful steps, hiking together, weekly check-ins, and that pivotal coffee meeting, we agreed to seek counseling as the next step. Family therapists stress the importance of a safe, neutral space for structured dialogue, and that's exactly what we need now. In the softly lit waiting room, I glance at my sister across from me. She's dressed simply, shoulders squared, but her eyes are vulnerable in a way I've never seen. A few minutes later, the therapist greets us and ushers us into a small, warm office. No one interrupts, no one dominates. Instead, the therapist guides us gently. One of us speaks while the other listens, without responding or defending. They call this active listening, a technique recommended for sibling reconciliation. We begin by sharing memories, good and painful. I describe how her teasing made me feel invisible, recounting the anxiety that shadowed my teenage years. Then it's her turn. She shares her pressure to fit in and shine, confessing she acted out of fear that drawing attention to me would dim her own spotlight. It's the first time she's acknowledged that perspective. The counselor reminds us, understanding each other's viewpoint builds empathy. I can feel the truth of that settling between us. Mid-session, the therapist asks us to identify our roles growing up: my sister as the star and me as the quiet one. Recognizing these patterns is key, they explain. It helps prevent reenacting toxic behaviors in adulthood. I realize how ingrained those roles became, how I became quieter and she louder. Naming them feels like pulling out old roots. As we pass through rough emotions, the therapist introduces trust-building exercises. Each of us shares one small vulnerability about today, not the past. My sister admits she fears she'll slip back into teasing when stressed. I confess I get triggered when she interrupts me. She listens and nods. I sense relief in her acknowledgement. These tiny admissions echo advice from therapists: small, consistent actions and empathy rebuild trust over time. Toward the end, the counselor invites us to set boundaries. We agree, if one of us does or says something hurtful, we'll pause and say time out, just like we practiced. We choose weekly check-ins and monthly therapy sessions. She writes it down, our shared map moving forward. We leave the office hand in hand, tentative, but together. Outside, she turns to me, thank you for being brave today. I press pause, breathe it in. Thank you for listening. In the days that follow, we test our commitments. She texts after a tough day at work, I respond with warm curiosity. I share my anxieties, she listens, not for flaws, just for me. We celebrate these small gestures, understanding that bonds aren't rebuilt in leaps but in moments that affirm connection. One evening, she shows up with Indian takeout, my favorite, and we sit at my kitchen table, too busy catching up to talk about boundaries. Instead, we fold naan and laugh. It's not perfect healing, but it's real and tender. When summer arrives, we settle into a rhythm of weekly dinners and periodic therapy check-ins, both small rituals of healing that echo expert advice about rebuilding trust through consistent, intentional contact. One evening after work, my sister shows up unannounced at my door with a homemade dessert, her effort, not perfection, symbolizing a shift from performative apology to genuine caring. We eat quietly on the porch, the setting sun softening the air between us. She asks me about my anxiety management techniques, not out of obligation but from real curiosity, and listens without interrupting. I ask her about a project she's been working on, and she responds with detail and enthusiasm, without turning the topic back to herself. Later that week in therapy, we unpack that dinner. The therapist helps us identify and label those moments as trust-building behaviors, a concept rooted in sibling counseling that emphasizes small, repeated actions. When I describe how her simple gesture made me feel seen, she responds with empathy, describing her own fear that she'd slip back into patterns of insensitivity or defensiveness. We role-play a scenario in which she might unintentionally tease, practicing the agreed timeout signal she can say, and I can simply express when I'm hurt. That night, as I write in my journal, I reflect on the subtle changes. I no longer tense when she arrives, and she no longer asks questions only to keep the focus on herself. We are not the sisters we once were, but neither are we the enemies we feared we'd remain. We are becoming something new, two women committed to honest communication, to noticing each other's progress, to understanding that reconciliation is not a finish line but an ongoing practice. Our relationship is still fragile, it still trembles when old wounds surface, but with each shared smile, each text checking in, each therapy session where we speak and listen without defense, the bridge between us grows sturdier. And in that summer dusk, waiting for her to leave, we share a quiet moment that feels like promise. Neither of us looks away. By the time autumn arrives, our friendship-like pattern has begun to settle into daily life. We share dinners, occasional laughter, and moments of quiet understanding, our shared ritual of weekly therapy still intact. One evening as we sit across from each other, we realize that our conversations have moved from past hurts to present lives. We talk about work stress, future plans, small victories, and disappointments. When she shares her struggle with a new manager, I listen without needing to draw attention to myself. She listens as I describe managing my anxiety in public and how mindfulness exercises help me stay grounded. There's no judgment, no uneven emotional bleeding, just clear, provisional empathy. Our therapist had taught us the importance of active listening, calling it a cornerstone of healing and sibling restoration, and I've seen the power in her simple question, "How are you doing today?" The question is building trust, one brick at a time. Through therapy, we've learned to recognize our old roles, the star and the quiet one, and how those patterns kept us apart, which helped open space for new patterns to grow. We identify triggers, a sarcasm-laced joke, a dismissive glance. When either of us slips, we pause and say time out, a clear and respectful way to reclaim safety. That one simple rule anchors our fragile progress. Outside of therapy, she shows up with my favorite novel after a rough week, and I text her a message of support. These are small but consistent gestures that, according to experts on rebuilding sibling bonds, are far more impactful than grand declarations. We also begin inventing new traditions, monthly movie nights, shared exercise routines, a rotating ritual of bringing dinner to each other. Each pattern affirms that we want one another to feel seen and included, something I never felt as a child. The more space we give each other to exist authentically, the less I feel like a ghost, and she feels less like she has to compete for attention. Sometimes the past threatens to claw its way back, an old insult surfaces in my memory, or she lapses into self-centered recounting of her day, and we still stumble. But we stop, acknowledge it, apologize, and move on, building resilience together. We've come to understand that reconciliation isn't a finish line, it's an ongoing practice grounded in patience, honesty, and accountability. The biggest lesson I've internalized is that sibling estrangement often functions as self-protection, me pulling away to guard my heart, her pushing to fill a fearful void, and by naming that dynamic we've disarmed it. In this chapter of our lives, we don't claim to be perfect sisters, just sisters still willing to rebuild together. When winter comes, the air carries quiet anticipation and reflection. It has been a year since our first therapy session, a year marked by small victories and gentle growth. We find ourselves in my living room, a soft snow falling outside the window, illuminated by warm lamplight. We sip herbal tea and reminisce about how tentative we once were, how one-word texts and serious coffees have transformed into laughter over mismatched socks, shared forgiveness, and an understanding deeper than either of us once thought possible. We no longer carry it between us as a wall, but as a shared story that shaped us. She picks up the childhood photo album I gifted her the day she arrived with the tea. She flips to a picture of us playing dress-up, she in a princess tiara, I, the hesitant sidekick. A smile crosses her lips as she looks at me, and she says softly, "I'm sorry I never asked how you felt back then. I was afraid it might make me less important." I reach for her hand and offer my own apology for the walls I built around myself. I tell her how much space and time I needed, but also how it hurt when she didn't notice I was missing. She nods, tears glinting in her eyes, and I don't need her to say more. We both understand how much we've overcome. That evening, we light a candle and read the letter of boundaries we once drafted in therapy, now framed on a shelf. If either of us hurts the other, say time out. We smile at how far those simple truths have carried us. They've guided us through missteps and quiet evenings alike. In the final hush of winter, with candlelight dancing across our skin, I realize this is not the end. It's a new beginning. Not perfect, but honest. Not easy, but worth it. And as snow blankets the world outside, my heart finally feels at peace, with the sister I almost lost but never stopped loving.